please like, comment, and subscribe. All right, so today we're going on a deep dive into something you might not think about when you think about museums. We're talking spam.
Spam.
We've got an article here called The Shocking History of Spam, From War Rations to Global Icon. And even I was surprised by how much there is to this canned meat, from its humble beginnings to a global phenomenon, plus a whole museum in Austin, Minnesota. Who knew?
Yeah, it really is a fascinating story. And I think what's often overlooked is that spam emerged during a really difficult time for a lot of folks, the Great Depression. So when it launched in 1937, it was really the brainchild of J.C. Hormel, who was looking for a way to create an affordable and convenient meat product, something that could help families that were struggling.
It was born out of necessity then. But what about the name Spam? Did it really come from spiced ham?
Yeah, you got it. It's a portmanteau, so like a blending of two words. And it really captures the essence of the product. Spiced ham in a can. But what's interesting is that this really simple recipe, with just 6 core ingredients, would soon end up playing a crucial role on a much larger stage. World War II.
Oh yeah, I've heard about Spam being a staple for soldiers during World War II. But over 100 million pounds supplied to Allied forces? That's got to be like a mountain of Spam.
Yeah, it really is a staggering amount. And it just highlights how vital Spam became to the war effort. It was shelf-stable, easy to transport, just ideal for feeding troops, all over the world, especially in conditions where fresh food was hard to come by. I'm sure you can imagine that the soldiers developed some creative nicknames for Spam.
Oh, I bet. Something posing as meat.
Hmm.
I think that's the one I've always heard. But, on a serious note, it wasn't just American soldiers who relied on Spam during World War II, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Spam was a crucial part of the Lend-Lease Act, which was this program that the United States used to supply food and other essential goods to allied nations. Places like the UK, the Soviet Union, a lot of these countries were facing severe food shortages because of the war, and Spam provided a much-needed source of protein and just sustenance in general.
It's so interesting to think about how a product created during an American economic crisis ended up playing such a vital role in a global conflict. What I find fascinating is how Spam managed to go from this wartime necessity to a beloved household staple in so many different parts of the world.
Yeah, and a lot of that success can be attributed to Hormel's marketing campaigns after the war. They really pushed Spam as this convenient and versatile pantry essential, and they developed all sorts of recipes to show how you could use it beyond just frying it up.
And then, of course, you can't talk about Spam without mentioning that iconic Monty Python Spam sketch, which, I think it's hilarious. But it really solidified Spam's place in pop culture. It even gave us the term for all those annoying, unsolicited emails.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that sketch really shows how pervasive Spam had become in everyday life. It was so well known that it could be used for comedy. And the fact that it gave us the word spam for unwanted digital messages just shows how ubiquitous it was.
You mentioned earlier the Spam Museum in Austin, Minnesota.
Yeah.
A whole museum dedicated to canned meat. That seems a little over the top, don't you think?
Well, yeah, maybe at first glance. But when you consider how rich and deep Spam's story is, from its Depression-era beginnings to its global culinary impact, I think it starts to make more sense. And it's not just a bunch of cans on shelves either.
So what kind of stuff can you actually experience at the Spam Museum? I have this vision of like an interactive exhibit where you can your own Spam.
Yeah. Well, you're not too far off. The Spam Museum actually offers a pretty diverse experience. You can dive into the history of Spam, learn about its role in World War II, explore its cultural significance all over the world. They even have exhibits dedicated to the Monty Python sketch and other pop culture references. And yeah, they do have interactive displays where you can simulate the canning process and learn about all the ingredients that go into making Spam.
Wow, it's amazing how they managed to take something as seemingly ordinary as canned meat and turn it into this whole multifaceted museum experience. It really speaks to the enduring legacy of this product. But what about the museum itself? When did it open, and what inspired them to create it in the first place?
So the Spam Museum first opened its doors back in 1991, and it was actually expanded in 2016. It was really envisioned as a way to celebrate the history and cultural impact of Spam, and to give visitors a fun and educational way to engage with it.
Okay, so they've got the history, the pop culture, the interactive exhibits.
Yeah.
But no museum is complete without a gift shop.
Of course not. And the Spam Museum has an awesome gift shop where you can find all sorts of unique Spam-themed merchandise, clothes, accessories, and of course, tons of different Spam flavors, including some that you won't find in regular stores. They even host special events, cooking demonstrations, and all sorts of other activities throughout the year.
Wow, I'm starting to think that a trip to Austin, Minnesota might actually be a lot more interesting than I initially imagined.
Yeah, I think you'd be surprised. It's really a testament to the fact that Spam is more than just food. It's a cultural phenomenon with this really rich and fascinating history that continues to captivate people all over the world.
So, Spam is more than just
Yeah,
meets the eye.
it really is.
Okay. So we've talked about its origins in the Depression, its role in World War II, its impact on pop culture, and even its very own museum. But Spam's story doesn't end there, right? There's
Right.
a whole global culinary adventure to uncover, from Hawaii to South Korea, the Philippines, and beyond. So stay tuned. As we continue our deep dive into the world of Spam, we'll be right back after a short break.
Can't wait. And the museum really does a fantastic job of showcasing that broader story of Spam. It's not just about the product itself, but about how Spam has really woven itself into the fabric of American culture and beyond.
You say beyond, and I know Spam is like incredibly popular in Hawaii. They even had that Spam Jam festival that we were talking about earlier. But what about other parts of the world? Did Spam's popularity mostly come from its presence during the war?
Well, World War II definitely played a role in introducing Spam to a lot of different cultures. But its staying power goes way beyond that. Like, take South Korea, for example. Spam is considered a really prized gift item there. It's often included in these elaborate holiday gift sets. It's a far cry from its humble beginnings as, a Depression-era food.
Wow, that is a cultural twist I did not expect. Why do you think Spam achieved that premium status in South Korea?
That's a good question. I think it's probably tied to its association with the post-war period, during a time when there was a lot of scarcity. Spam represented prosperity, access to American goods, and that association has really endured. It's become a symbol of good fortune, a desirable gift.
It's almost like a cultural souvenir
Mm-hmm.
of a specific historical era. What about other places where Spam is surprisingly popular?
Well, the Philippines is another really interesting example. Spam is a breakfast staple there, often served alongside rice and eggs, in a dish called spam salog. It's become so ingrained in Filipino cuisine that it's practically considered a national dish at this point.
Wow, it's just amazing how a single product can have such different meanings and be used in so many ways depending on the culture. I'm really starting to see why there's an entire museum dedicated to this stuff. You mentioned earlier that the museum also explores Spam's role in pop culture. What are some of the things that they highlight in those exhibits?
Well, of course, they have a whole section dedicated to the Monty Python Spam sketch, complete with video clips and behind-the-scenes information. But they also look at how Spam has been featured in movies, TV shows, even music. For example, did you know that there was a popular swing tune from the 1940s called Spam, 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 Spam?
No, I had no idea. It sounds like they really went all out in showcasing Spam's influence on culture.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about the museum itself for a minute. You mentioned that it was expanded back in 2016. What kind of changes did they make?
Well, the expansion really enhanced the whole visitor experience. They added new interactive exhibits, including a simulated spam factory, so you can actually learn about how spam is made. And there's a Spam Brand 101 area, which delves into the company's marketing strategies over the years. And of course, they made the gift shop even bigger, which is always a hit with visitors.
It sounds like they really thought of everything to create a truly immersive experience. What about special events or programming? Do they offer anything beyond just the standard museum exhibits?
Oh, absolutely. The Spam Museum is a hub of activity, especially during the summer months. They have cooking demonstrations, spam-themed trivia nights, even live music performances, and of course, they're a big part of the annual Spam Jam Festival in Waikiki, Hawaii.
So it's not just a static museum, it's a really dynamic place.
Yeah.
That celebrates everything Spam. Have there been any particularly memorable or unusual exhibits or events at the museum over the years?
Oh, there have been quite a few. One that comes to mind is an exhibit they did on spam-themed wedding cakes. They had all these crazy creations. Some even incorporated spam into the frosting and decorations. It was really fun and whimsical, and it showed just how versatile spam can be, even in the most unexpected ways.
Spam wedding cakes. Now, that's something I never would have imagined. It sounds like they really have fun with the subject matter.
Oh.
Okay, have to ask. Is there a dress code at the Spam Museum? Do you have to wear pink?
Haha. Oh, well, there's no official dress code, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you showed up in your best spam-themed outfit.
I bet they'd roll out the pink carpet for that. It really does sound like a unique and entertaining museum experience. What I find most impressive is that they've managed to create such a vibrant and engaging destination around something that, let's be honest, isn't exactly glamorous.
That's the beauty of it. They've taken something ordinary and elevated it to something extraordinary. It's a testament to the power of storytelling, creativity, and of course, a lot of spam-inspired enthusiasm.
Speaking of spam-inspired enthusiasm, I'm curious about the people who work there. Who are the folks who dedicate their lives to preserving and celebrating the legacy of Spam?
The Spam Museum staff is a really passionate and dedicated group. They're truly committed to sharing the story of Spam with the world. They have historians, curators, event planners, gift shop enthusiasts.
They must have some great stories to tell. I'd love to hear about what it's like to work at a museum dedicated to canned meat.
Oh, I bet there are some good ones. It's a job that definitely requires a sense of humor, a love of history, and maybe a tolerance for Spam-related puns.
Well, they've definitely created something special in Austin, Minnesota. The Spam Museum is a real testament to the enduring legacy of this humble canned meat and its ability to capture the imaginations of people all over the world.
Yeah.
I have to admit, you've really piqued my curiosity. I might just have to add the Spam Museum to my travel bucket list.
You should. I highly recommend it. It's an experience you won't forget.
So, we've talked about the Spam Museum, its exhibits, its events, even its gift shop. But what about Spam itself? How has this iconic product managed to stay relevant for almost a century? What's the secret to its longevity?
That's a great question, and I think it has a lot to do with Hormel's willingness to innovate and adapt. They've constantly been coming up with new flavors, low sodium options, even a turkey Spam. They've found ways to keep Spam fresh and exciting for each new generation.
That's really interesting because you often think of Spam as this kind of old-fashioned food, something your grandparents might eat, but they've managed to keep it current.
Exactly, and I think that's a big part of its appeal. It's familiar, it's comforting, but it's also constantly evolving.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Spam, I'm struck by the fact that it's more than just a food. It's a cultural icon, a symbol of resilience, and a testament to the power of human ingenuity.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Spam's journey is a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected things can have the most profound impact on our lives.
Absolutely. So the next time you see a can of Spam, don't just dismiss it as, just another canned meat. Take a moment to appreciate its rich history, its global reach, and its enduring legacy. Who knows? You might even be inspired to take a trip to the Spam Museum in Austin, Minnesota, and experience it all for yourself. Please like, comment, and subscribe. So we've talked about the Spam Museum, the exhibits, the events, the gift shop. But what about Spam itself? How has this iconic product managed to stay relevant for almost a century? What's the secret?
That's a great question. I think it really comes down to Hormel's commitment to innovation, to adapting. They're always coming up with new flavors, right? Low sodium options. They even have turkey Spam now. They figured out how to keep Spam fresh and interesting for every generation.
Yeah, you always think of Spam as this old-fashioned food, like something your grandparents would eat. But they really have kept it current.
Exactly. And I think that's a huge part of its appeal. It's familiar, it's comforting, but it's also constantly changing.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Spam, I'm struck by how it's more than just a food. It's really a cultural icon, a symbol of resilience and a testament to human ingenuity.
I couldn't have put it better myself. Spam's journey shows us that sometimes the things we least expect can have the biggest impact on our lives.
Absolutely. So the next time you see a can of Spam, don't just think, oh, canned meat. Take a minute. Think about its history, its global reach, its legacy. Who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to visit the Spam Museum in Austin, Minnesota yourself and see it all firsthand. Please like, comment, and subscribe.